Regardless of how you feel about him, it's undeniable that Dana White is a force to be reckoned with. He's helped shape the careers of some of the world's most famous fighters, turned a once dying operation into a million-dollar industry, and made a handsome fortune for himself in the process. But everyone who has achieved the level of fame and success that White has is bound to have a dark side. And today, we're going to explore the life of Dana White. Hello everyone, welcome to Money Mindfuck. Although, before we start, if you appreciate the content and all the research that went into this video, it would help out this channel a lot if you hit the like button. If you were new to this channel, kindly hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell to get more videos like this. Now, without further ado, let's get started. Dana White was born in New England, United States on July 28, 1969, as a young boy. His mother, a nurse, moved the family to Las Vegas to pursue a higher-paying job, so he spent much of his early life in the City of Lights, which is possibly how he fell in love with playing cards today. He is known as somewhat of a wizard at blackjack and is even allegedly banned from casinos across the city for apparently winning too much a few years before White started transforming into the fighting king we love or hate today. He worked odd jobs for a few years, including a well-paid position as a hotel valet. It was at this job that White realized he wasn't being true to himself. He looked at his life and realized that simply being comfortable wasn't enough to make him happy. He looked at the fight business and realized that he needed to get into it right away, so White quit his job and walked out of the front door of that hotel. White did a little bit of everything. He was heavily involved in boxing and made a respectable living taking on different boxing clients. He was devoted to the world of fighting and was happy to be involved in any way he could, from managing gyms to eventually managing fighters themselves. He'd set up a pretty nice life for himself, even opening up a gym in South Boston, but in the early 1990s, he got a visit he didn't expect. White was teaching a class at a gym beneath a courthouse in South Boston when he was approached by two men who asked him to come outside and speak with them. One of the men was Kevin Week, a notorious mobster and Bulger's right-hand man. Once outside, the men told White that he owed them $2,500 and that he needed to pay up right away. It's important to note that there has been no indication that White has ever been involved with the mob, and it's not exactly like mobsters are known for being reasonable, but still, it's a pretty strange story. But he's no fool. He booked a flight to Las Vegas and left his life in Boston behind. As strange and terrifying as this story must have been, it set White on the path to the UFC. It's amusing to think that MMA might not be where it is today if it hadn't been for a gang from Boston and their leader's decision to demand a few $1,000s from a boxing coach one day in Vegas. White returned to the fight business, but it wasn't long before he moved on from boxing and fell in love with mixed martial arts. White's years of experience managing fight spaces and coaching fighters soon led him to manage fighters themselves, including Tito Ortiz and Chuck Liddell. But Dana White wasn't satisfied. It was around this time that White had a fortuitous meeting while at a friend's wedding. He ran into a man he had been friends with back in school. Lorenzo Fertitta and his brother Frank owned several casinos and were already well known in Las Vegas. While an opportunity didn't immediately present itself, the three men vowed to work together at some point, and it wasn't long before an opportunity presented itself that would take them to heights they never could have imagined. While White engaged in frustrating negotiations between his fighters and the UFC, he noticed that the company appeared to be in trouble, which got him thinking about how he could elevate the UFC into a global success if he were in charge. White approached the Fertitta brothers with his idea, and they were immediately on board. The brothers formed a new company, Zuffa LLC. They bought the UFC and immediately appointed White as president. It was then that White's journey to unimaginable power began. When White and the Fertittas took over the UFC, it did not have the respect of the masses, according to White, and it was a little more than a brand name and an Octagon. It was also unpopular. Senator John McCain even tried to have MMA banned in 1996 because the public saw it as a violent and uncivilized sport. After watching a video of the game, McCain was horrified, claiming that hitting a man when he was down was un-American and that the entire thing was a kin. McCain was so determined to end the sport that he wrote letters to every governor in the country, pleading with them to outlaw it. And he did have some success as a result of his campaign. McCain also had extreme power over the cable industry, which also dramatically reduced the amount of revenue the UFC could make by the end of the century. By the end of the century, their pay-per-view buys had dropped from 35 million to just 7.5 million. Without McGregor, it's unlikely that MMA would have achieved the level of prestige it has today. White and his team worked tirelessly to get fights sanctioned in every state. In 2016, that dream became a reality. Of course, this complete 180 took several years, and over those years, White went from an eager entrepreneur to a multimillionaire and the most influential person in the fight world. But what did it take to get there? No one can deny that white people worked hard. He's been across the country 100 times advocating for MMA to find the best fighters and introduced brand new audiences to the UFC all over the world. But just as a white man deserves his fair pay, so do the fighters who give it. White proudly announced his support for Trump, shouting to the world that Trump was the best choice for the country, and telling the story of how Donald Trump was allegedly the first person who took the UFC seriously, even hosting the first few UFC events. Despite Trump's contentious presidency, White supported him once more and at several other campaign rallies. Consider White's influence, especially since their history together is public record. Perhaps it was something else that compelled White to express his support for Trump. Perhaps it was his recognition of something similar between them, such as aggression, ruthlessness, and a rejection of political correctness. The list of people who have gotten on White's bad side is lengthy, but here are a few highlights from the years. In response, White went on Yahoo Sports and called Shaw a loser in 2009. White didn't like a story on SureDog.com, and so in response, he posted a 3-minute video blasting the writer. The video was littered with slurs and swear words. If you're going to write a fucking story, make sure it's fucking true and you have some facts. And if you're going to put some quotes in there, get some quotes from people who have the balls to put their name on it, because whoever gave you that quote is a cunt and getting a liar is dumb. White blasted In Sync with heartthrob Justin Timberlake in 2013. A few years earlier, White and his children had been backstage at the Nickelodeon Awards. White spoke of his children's excitement to see all of the stars backstage, but they did not appear to have a good interaction with the stars. White said the biggest kid back there was Justin Timberlake. Just such a complete jack, yeah, just couldn't have been bigger. I don't know if he's a UFC fan or not, but I'm not a big Justin Timberlake fan. In 2016, Ariel Helwani, an MMA journalist, broke the story about Brock Lesnar's return to the UFC. White was so upset that he'd shared the story so early that he barred him from receiving press credentials for the UFC. While the ban was eventually lifted, Helwani still rarely attends UFC events. While many negative things have been said about Dana White, there have also been many reports that he's a good guy who loves his family and is a great husband and father. And okay, maybe he's not a good son, at least according to his mother. June praised White for everything he's done for the UFC in the interview, but claims he's not a good person and appears to have lost his character somewhere along the way. Damn, that's got to hurt, especially coming from your mother. In a sadder turn of events, White's mother claimed that his rise to fame has changed him, that he no longer cares about his family, that he didn't even visit his grandmother before she died or attended her funeral. These type of actions are consistent with some of the claims made about him being cruel and misogynistic over the years, but what's interesting is that his mother believes his rise to power changed him. So if Dana White is ruthless, and many people believe he is, was it the fame and fortune that made him that way? Or did he achieve his fame and fortune because he was ruthless to begin with? White signed a new 7-year contract in 2019, ensuring that he will be the UFC president until at least 2026. That's all for today, folks. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please like it and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on other wonderful videos from us. Till next time.